Welcome to Stroke of Genius Podcast Survivor Experience, where I believe mindset is a foundation of your recovery. I'm your host, Avila, a 13-year post-survivor of a brain aneurysm and stroke. Join me now as I share survivor stories of resilience and triumph around the globe. So without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome to Stroke of Genius Podcast Survivor Experience. Michael, how
you
do
doing
you
there?
introduce yourself to everybody?
My name is Michael Bugh.
Thank you.
And you and I basically met a couple of years ago after my initial stroke. And of course, we've graduated since then, but I've stayed active and tried to watch a little bit on the web page and see what's been going on. And, of course, when you heard what happened this past weekend, you got a hold of me. You were like, wait a minute, man,
hey,
wait a
people,
minute.
I'm going to tell you, with Michael Bugh, not only is a stroke survivor, from 20, when did you have a stroke, Michael?
The stroke was November of 2018.
But the big one,
Yeah, but
the heart attack, was only a week ago.
it was I went into the hospital and had the heart attack on the 30th of December. So it was.
Yeah. Well,
Let me tell you.
let's touch on the stroke first. So, when you
Okay.
stroke, did you have any warning signs that you knew something was going on? Nothing. No warning signs.
No, I was laying in bed actually, and I got up and I was going to go to the kitchen to go get something to drink. And, we live in one of those little story-and-a-half farmhouses. Not a big house. And I stood up, and by the time I got to the door of the bedroom, it was like somebody pulled a Venetian blind down and wiggled it in front of my eyes. And then all of a sudden, I could see, but I couldn't focus because my eyes weren't looking at the same thing. They were out of tune with each other. So I wasn't really blind, but I couldn't see, And I had to have my son lead me into the kitchen. And I sat down on one of the chairs and I said, "We got to call 911. Something's wrong." And lo and behold, later on we found out it was a hemorrhagic stroke back in the occipital on the right side.
Oh, so that's why I messed with your vision, because it was back where the vision was.
Yeah, it's right near the visual cortex. And basically what it did is it wiped out the left periphery in each eyeball. Not in just your overall vision. It's in each eye. So you have in the crossover area between your eyes, I have no depth perception.
Wow.
So it gets a little weird, but
hey, trust me, I'm sitting there watching you move your arms and hands and talking normal. You really escaped down good. You did good.
Yeah, I didn't have any mechanical effects from the stroke. It was all sensory, which is kind of what confuses the doctor, because your hearing and your sight and your touch sensation, those are all from different portions of your brain. But then again, why was mine all affected only on the left side? And the doctors can't explain it. They just kind of toss their hands up in the air.
And you said you had your stroke at 2018.
Yeah, right before Thanksgiving.
Okay,
I think it was about a week.
Now listen to this, people. He is not a competitor of severe life-threatening illnesses, but New Year's Eve, he experienced what? A heart attack.
That was unique, again, because a lot of times, like sometimes you see how Hollywood does them, and they're like, No, this was just like right at the top of my sternum. I just had it just felt weird, and it felt like you needed to burp, but you couldn't. Yeah. And it did that for, I don't know, 2.5 days. And I was sitting in the house, and all of a sudden I said, well, I said, maybe I need to make a phone call and see what's going on. So I picked up the phone and called 911, and I stood by the door, and the ambulance pulled up, and I walked outside, walked down the handicap ramp, and the guy, the EMT looked at me and he says, which one's the patient? I said, well, that'd be me. I said, that's me. And he goes, well, come on in, And so we got in the ambulance, and I laid down, and I live in a resort park in Florida with mobile homes and stuff. So you have a slow speed limit inside. So while the guy's driving the ambulance and going over towards the gate, this guy's putting all the EKG stuff on me and the checking blood pressure and strapping me in. And when he got we had just gotten out onto the Highway 27, and we were turning south. Hospital's probably 7 miles. And the EMT got the first reading off of the EKG machine, and the only thing he did was he turned around and he just started beating on the back of the driver's seat, and he's like, lights, siren, go. He said, God, this guy's having a heart attack right now. We got to go. And all I heard was the 4-barrel kick in on that ambulance. And we took off down the highway. I remember up to about that point in the ambulance ride. I don't remember the rest of it until we got to the hospital. And I remember coming out of the back of the ambulance, and then they were going to take me into the ER. And I think I have memory of like the first 5 minutes or so inside the ER, and after that, gone for a while. Basically, I came to at 2 different points in time that I know of. The first time, I just saw light, and it wasn't really anything different, because if you open your eyes in the emergency room, you're going to have bright lights over you. But when I dozed out the second time, it was black, but I could see kind of the outline of a door that had light. It looked like light was on behind the door, and all of a sudden the door started to open. And I heard my youngest son's voice. He said, come on, Pops. And when I walked to the light, the door opened up, and I was laying on the operating table inside the ER and woke up from under anesthesia, was trying to grab my ventilator tube to pull it out of my mouth. These guys are putting stents in my heart right now, and I was trying to fight them. So, I pass out, and then I wake up in ICU. Only later to find out that, the one nurse that came in from the cath lab was a big guy. He's probably 6'4", 6'6", and he's probably 340 pounds, He comes in and he looks at me and he said, I said, did I flatline? And he said, yes. He says, I go by, if you have no pulse, you're flatline and you're dead. And he looked at me and he said, 2. You did that twice. And the other lady looked at me, and of course I was hurt so bad, all the way from the tops of my shoulders, all the way down to right about your belly button. And I really didn't have any idea of what was going on until the lady looked at me and she said, well, we had to resuscitate you 14 times.
Oh my God.
And I looked at her and I said, excuse me? And she said, well, yeah. She said, we hit you with the paddles. And about that time, I pulled my shirt open and I took I had the nurse take a picture. And yeah, it looks like the Star Trek emblem that's burned into my chest over here. And I looked at her and I said, well, I know why I hurt, but thank you, because otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation, I
So
guess,
I would say you're saying your son, you had a near-death experience.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, there's no other way to explain that. Um, I wasn't in control of anything. I could only remember very little bits of it. But I told the chaplain at the hospital right after it happened, and he just looked at me and I said, you hear about people telling you that all the time. Walk to the light, always follow the light, do all this. And maybe that was something with me too. I don't know. But the thing that got my attention wasn't the light, it was the voice. When I heard my son's voice go, "Come on, Pop." I mean, you almost think you're in a dream state and you're just laying somewhere asleep, and all you got to do is wake up from the nap and stand up, and you and your son are going to go out and do something. But that wasn't the case. I was definitely not in that kind of position to do anything.
Yeah, you and I talked yesterday about that. I had a very intense near-death experience, but more life-changing than my stroke or my brain aneurysm. And
Right.
if you tell me your story, you weren't here. You were not on Earth. You were,
No,
you were in that place where people call heaven. I don't know what. You were in some place spiritual. And I just amazed at that there is a spiritual realm out there. In fact, you and I talked about it. We're both not religious, but we are spiritual, and especially
right.
now.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell you one thing: when you're in whatever area that is, nothing hurts. I mean, you got to remember, those guys hit me with those paddles 14 times.
My God,
I'm a little guy,
right?
you know. Now, you would think that would hurt.
Yeah.
But while I was in the ER and while this other stuff was while I was in and out of consciousness, even during the surgery, that kind of made the doctors a little weary. Um, but nothing hurt. I didn't have any problems with anything, and it was like I just felt like I needed to wake up out of a nap. And then finally you do. And when you
What
open
you
up the
do
eyes,
is, Michael, if you when I had my near-death experience, I had a brain aneurysm and stroke,
right,
and I was messed up. Okay, I'm still pretty messed up, but like you, there's nothing wrong when I was in that place where that is. I was done nothing wrong. I was totally free. In fact, I had no pain, no body. Really, I get no pain, no nothing. I was free.
well, like I say, with mine, it was just everything was black. And the only thing you could see was just the outline of, three sides of the outline of a door with a light behind it. And when the door opened up, my son spoke, and I walked through, and I was back in the OR.
My
So it was a
God.
magic gateway, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It, I, I guess one of the things I think about afterwards is the fact that I'm pretty lucky because with me struggling like I was, I mean, these guys got a little tiny wire and I had to put two stents. Those went in on my distal artery, which is on the heart. So, you can't be jumping around while this guy's trying to put those things in your heart. But I didn't know any better. I mean, I didn't even know what they had done when I got up to the OR or to the ICU. When I finally woke up, I had no clue. I woke up and I was just looking around going, oh, well, this is different, you know. And,
No.
and then
Well,
I started having
Mike,
little,
I gotta go back because you said something that caught me. But you said you lived with the symptoms for 2 days or so. You felt
yep,
like funny feeling in sternum.
it
For,
didn't hurt a bit. It was just an uncomfortable, just like you had gas. I mean, you kind of felt like you had to burp, but not a really big burp. But it never would move in, and you could take like if you had several times I took a bottle of water, just cold water, drink about half a bottle of it down, goes away. It's gone for an hour or two, and then it's almost like, I guess, the sensation, the physical sensation. You remember them old fizzies that we used to put in soda pop?
Yeah.
If you stuck one of those under your sternum and it was bubbling up against the bottom of your sternum, that's basically what it felt like. It wasn't anything major. And like I say, I walked out the front door, and, the guy ambulance driver's like, "Who's the patient?" And I said, "Well, I am." And he's like, "Okay," because he saw on the paperwork, he saw chest pains and all this other stuff. So 9 times out of 10, somebody's laying on the couch or the bed or something like that, and they go take the gurney and they go get them. And I walked out and met him at the ambulance. And he just looked at me funny. He's like, "Okay, let's get in." He changed his attitude pretty quick, though.
that is amazing. So, I want to start working with the American Heart Association,
Right.
and I think for them, and I want everybody to realize what we are doing right now. We want to raise heart attack awareness, not just stroke. He had a stroke.
Yeah.
No real symptoms, but the heart attack he did. He did have warning signs, but he didn't identify. It was that funny sternum feeling.
Well, the one thing I can tell, and I guess you probably notice a little bit about me on the personality, especially with having be a radio DJ, is you're very outgoing, you're very friendly, you're always talking. New situations are no big deal. For the last 2.5 years that I've lived here, I haven't been that way. I've been a recluse. I've not felt like going anywhere. I've not felt like doing anything. Nothing hurt. I'd go out and I'd go down to the workout center and I'd go walk 3 or 4 miles on the treadmill. Wasn't any big deal, but personality wise, I just had that underlying feeling that something wasn't right. And I had lost all my urge to go out and meet people. And, but now that's changed. I've noticed a big difference as far as just me, because we're looking, what's today? 5th?
I know.
Yeah. We've had this surgery less. 4th? Okay. We've had this surgery 4 days, 3 days, 5 days, 5 days. And like I say, this is the first day that I've actually kind of got to walk around and relax and, kind of see how things are going. And I'm definitely a lot better just even sitting around the house. Because before, like sitting here at the kitchen table, I'd be able to do it for about 5 minutes, but I'd get uncomfortable and I'd have to get up and walk, or do something. Now I'm just as relaxed as I used to be years ago, sitting around or talking to somebody. So yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah, I think, it's unfortunate because I could, I'm running out of time, but I will say, I will say I want to leave this podcast with something to give people. And that's, if your body is telling you something is wrong, listen. See, Michael didn't listen. His body was telling him something was wrong, 2 days before the actual heart attack.
Yep.
And I'm just finding that happened to me. I was getting headaches before my stroke.
Right.
Headaches like you wouldn't believe. Before my aneurysm. And I'm just saying, people, if there's one thing Michael wants to say, is listen to your body. If something is not right, deal with it. Look at it. Face it. Don't shake it off. Michael, thank you so much for being here.